Well, hello and welcome to this episode of Good Business. I'm your host, Nicole Murray. But today we're going to be taking a look at the music business and talking to some very dedicated people who work behind the scenes to hold the Big Sound Music Summit. Each September, Brisbane is home to Big Sound, which attracts international music industry figures and artists from all over the world. Well, to help us find out more about this important initiative, joining us in the studio today is Martine Cotton, Volunteer Coordinator of Big Sound. Martine is also the Project Officer for Q Music, an organisation that promotes the value and potential of Queensland music. They also produce Big Sound. Martine, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Nicole.
So Martine, tell us about Big Sound. What's the purpose behind the summit?
Big Sound originated about 11 years ago, primarily to offer a platform to Queensland music and to the Queensland music industry. And it's grown exponentially over the period to become Australia's largest music industry event, with international and national guests and bands, and a lot of networking and a lot of business gets done at Big Sound. So it's quite an exciting event. Yeah.
So it's not just Queensland anymore now?
No, we've expanded. This year we have something like 120 bands playing the showcase component, and of that 24 are Queensland artists. We're still definitely about promoting Queensland music and business, and also promoting Queensland as a destination as well. But we like to give bands and industry an opportunity to work alongside national and international bands and industry members. Yeah. So it's very exciting.
That's fantastic. So has it been running long? Like how long has it been going?
11 years. This is the 11th year now. Yeah. Actually, back in the day, I spoke at the very first Big Sound. So it's grown so much since then.
And has it always been held in Brisbane?
It has. It's actually, its home is Fortitude Valley, and I think that given this very unique situation in the valley, where it's an entertainment precinct, and we have a huge range of venues, all in a very close precinct. So within 3 blocks or 3 minutes walk, you have the conference venues, the accommodation, and the live music. So the valley is Big Sound's home. It's very similar to the model that South by Southwest operates on, which is the biggest music festival in the world, music conference. Having everything in a really tight space so that you can walk everywhere within 3 to 10 minutes.
Wow, must have a fantastic vibe.
Yes.
Yeah, so tell us about the actual program of events that occur. How does that fold?
Well, it's growing all the time. At the moment, this year we're operating on 3 days conference of Big Sound. We've also introduced, last year was the first year, a conference day aimed at youth called Little Big Sound. We work in collaboration with the Quacky School, which is the, I know it's a cute name, but it's the Queensland Academy of Creative Industries, and they have a specialised stream of youth music industries students. And so that's growing, and we expect about 200 young people to come along, people who are passionate about the music industry. We have a lot of the speakers that we've sourced from Big Sound and also from outside, and there's also a showcase component for that little event. Then we've also got 2 nights of showcasing bands with 120 bands across 12 venues.
Wow, that would be fantastic.
Huge.
Huge. And I noticed on the program of events it had subjects like accounting practices and marketing, social media.
Well, it's all about professional development as much as it is networking. I think it's such a unique creative industry that there's not a lot of education. Well, in the past, there hasn't been a lot of an educational framework for people to learn how to operate with a very unique, music business model. Yeah. Because it fluctuates. It's difficult. Yeah. People think it's quite a glamorous life, but it's actually an incredible. It's hard work. It's really hard work. And
well, Martine, thanks so much for joining us today and telling us all about Big Sound. So stay with us, because after this break we'll get more perspective on the music industry by speaking to some of the people organising Big Sound. You're watching Good Business. Well, welcome back to Good Business. Today we're taking a look at big sound and how it can help emerging artists break into the music business. Our next guest has had a long career working all over the world in record companies and artist management. Graham Ashton, Big Sound's executive programmer, spoke to Thomas Coolidge in this interview.
So, how did you get started in this industry? Were you immediately attracted to working behind the scenes, or did you start off creating music?
Started off just being obsessed with music and left school and home at an early age singing punk rock bands. And it didn't take me long to realise I wasn't very good at that side of the stage. So some opportunities came up on the other side of the stage. So it's I've been fighting that ever since, still planning on making a comeback to annoy people.
Today, there are industry gatherings just like Big Sound all over the world, providing education in music marketing, management and production to up-and-comers in the music business. Was there similar kind of help when you started out, or did you have to learn the ropes on your own?
Yeah, nothing like that at all. There was, as far as I knew, unless I was naive to it, but my understanding certainly in Australia in those days, it was just throw yourself into it, and it was very much a DIY approach, and do whatever you can and learn from your own mistakes. And it's only really been in the last, I guess, decade that I've really started to notice these kind of events appearing in Australia, and I think they're fantastic.
So, can you tell me about your background working with artists in the music industry and how it's helped bring you to where you are now?
Sure. Well, I guess going back to what I was saying before, my first kind of real job that came in the music industry was to work at an old major label, which was Polygram Records at the time, and I was the sales desk supervisor. So basically sat with a headset on, keying in orders from music retailers. In those days, CDs was very, very big business. And then, from there ended up, being a sales rep, driving around to record stores and selling CDs pretty much to music retail, and did pretty well every job you could imagine at major and indie record labels up until only a few years ago, when I decided to start my own thing, Footstomp Music, and the first big contract I got with Footstomp was to program Big Sound.
How long have you been involved with Big Sound, and what does the role of executive programmer entail?
Well, this is my third year this year, and the role as the executive programmer has kind of got two sides to it. One is the conference and one is the showcase program. And the showcase program now is 120 bands across 12 stages, and we select that from all applicants from all over the world, and this year there was about 800 applicants, so that was a good balancing act to get that down to the final 120. And the conference program is a different thing each year with different subject matter, and that's where I have a bit of a budget to invite speakers from all over the world and all over Australia to come and speak about what we hope are relevant and interesting topics. And for me, I guess the main goal is to inspire people to commit their life to music, because I think it's really important.
What opportunities does the Big Sound program give to emerging artists?
Like any business, it's so much is about who you know in music, and having the opportunity for the people, in positions of influence to see your band or your music and hopefully fall in love with it. And the great thing about Big Sound is all of those people are in Fortitude Valley, so you got a captive audience. So if you can get them to see or hear your music and have the opportunity to meet with these people and get to know them, that's the great part of it. And instead of having to invest a fortune to travel around the world to South by Southwest or to similar type events, we're really lucky that we have the biggest one in the Southern Hemisphere in Brisbane.
And what's the process behind selecting bands for the live showcase?
Well, it's an application process that, as I was saying, about 800 bands applied this year, and the process for me is every night pretty much with my headphones on, sitting at home in front of the computer for I think it took about 2 or 3 months to go through it all and get the 800 down to, it was pretty clear, I guess, that some of them weren't ready. So you would go through that, and I think it was get the 800 down to about 440 or 450 that were ready. And then I have another person on the selection panel with me, and then I send them to her, and we would fight and passionately argue over the rights of these artists to make it down to the final 120. And the big thing this year, I think in the past, when it was smaller numbers of bands, we would go just pick who we thought were the best artists. and the most relevant artists, but now it's very much about a real diversity in genre. So this year we've got country music as well as hip hop and heavy music, and we've got world music, and we've even got a stage probably focused on artists that into their 30s, 40s and 50s, like adult alternative type stuff. So it's really diverse in genre.
When choosing speakers for the Big Sound conference, are there certain topics and content that you're trying to fulfill?
Well, the idea is that it's very much a global music community that we're talking to with this, rather than being relevant to Brisbane necessarily. But yeah, the idea is that every topic is relevant to what's going on in 2012 in music. But for me, I generally will go the other way and select the speakers and invite the speakers that I think are relevant and the right kind of people, and then shape the program around the people, instead of going the other way and going, here's a topic. So I end up going out there and inviting a whole bunch of people that I think are really relevant and really interesting and inspiring and irreverent as to what's going on at the moment. And then I'll sit back and go, okay, I'll build the topics of the program around the personalities that are involved. And it seems to work.
Do you think Big Sound can help Australian artists reach a broader international market? And if so, how?
Most definitely. Well, I think, in the last kind of 5 years, artists like the Temper Trap, Australasian artists like the Naked and Famous, Washington, there's a really big list, Cloud Control, of Australian artists who now have tangible careers internationally, and that they met their booking agent or their US label or their UK label or co-manager at Big Sound. So you talk about tangible outcomes for Australian artists. Yeah, there's probably hundreds that we could list that have come from Big Sound over the last kind of 12 years, but certainly in the last couple of years, some really big names.
All right. Well, thanks for that, Asher. It was good speaking to you today.
No worries. Nice to see you, Thomas.
Well, coming up next, we'll talk to Big Sound speaker and band manager Leanne D'Souza on her role in the conference and about some of the talented acts she's currently working with. We'll also take a look at a brand new initiative very similar to Big Sound, but not quite as big. Find out soon. Don't go anywhere. This is Good Business. Well, welcome back to Good Business. I'm here today talking with band manager Leanne D'Souza, learning about the music business. Leanne is a speaker at the 2012 Big Sound Conference and also runs her own management company, Buzz Office, based out of Brisbane. Hi, Leanne.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
No problem.
So, Leanne, how did you get started in artist management? What inspired you to do so?
I grew up playing music and loved music and played in the school concert band, etc. And loved pop music in the 80s. And when Thriller came out, I remember distinctly reading the liner notes and wanting to be one of those other people that did something that wasn't the artist. And then I did some management training in retail when I finished school and hung out with a lot of bands. And then I set up my first business when I was 20 as a booking agent in Brisbane, and started booking my friends' bands and my boyfriend's bands. And that really, I see that as my apprenticeship, and really taught me about how the live part of the music industry works. And then really it was what inspired me, is being close to the artist and the music. I think artists and musicians are really important people in our society, and are very special people. So I wanted to work closely with them. So around about 97, I went out on my own with a band where I just looked after one artist. And that sort of evolved over the years. I've had a number of artists that I've worked on just their career.
Yeah.
And then I do a lot of industry. It's also important to me that the broader industry is a great sense of community, which we have in Queensland. And so I do a lot of advocacy work now for the broader industry as well.
Wow. Okay, so at the moment you're managing the Brisbane band, The Medics. So how did that come about?
Well, they're from Cairns. They're a Cairns band. I need to sort of say that. I actually saw them for the first time at Big Sound in 2009. They were invited down to one of the parties that we host. Virgin put on the launch of their home CDs, which are contemporary Indigenous music compilation CDs, and they were invited down from Cairns. They were all 1920 to perform at that, and I saw them, and they just really moved and inspired something in me. And then I met them, and it's just been one step in front of the other. So now we're pretty tight. We've been together for 3 years.
3 years, wow. And so they've actually, had a really good following in Australia now and become quite popular. So what's sort of some of the recent successes that they've had?
It's been an amazing 3 years actually, from just really concentrating on the music and making the album as good as it could be, which was a couple of years process. So recently, the album came out this year in 2012 in May. It's called Foundations, and we're all very proud of it, and it's quite a distinctive sound for an Australian band. And then that's been great. The album came in the top 30, which was amazing. We never thought that would happen. They're quite an alternative rock band. They're not a safe band.
Yes.
So that happened, and then really recently, 2 weeks ago, they actually collected 3 National Indigenous Music Awards for Album of the Year and Song of the Year for Griffin and Best New Talent. So that's great.
Good.
And right as of now, they're out on the road on doing their first big 6-week national tour. So that's quite an achievement as well as an emerging band to back yourself and get out there and do that kind of extensive touring.
And so they, aside from other shows that they performed last year at the Big Sound, and from a marketing perspective, how important was it that for them in terms of the industry seeing them, the greater public?
Well, for me, they actually did, I met them in 2009 Big Sound. They actually did 2 after that, 2010, 2011, and both were very strategic for me as a manager on the industry side first. So 2010 was really, they played at the Zoo, and it was very much focused on getting what we call A&R, so the labels side of the record business, to really hear their sound, see that they're a great live band and want to work with us. I knew we had the funding for the record at that point, so I could say, that's great, they're fabulous, now go away, and then come back to them. So that was very strategic to get all the tastemakers talking about them in 2010. 2011, we were lucky enough to showcase again on a bigger stage, on one of the big outdoor ones. And from a marketing point of view, that was, industry-wise, was more about what we call music publishers then, which is all about the songs and finding the right team there. From a live audience point of view, that was the one, we had a massive crowd. It was sold out. People were queued to get in.
Wow, that's amazing. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with us, and we look forward to seeing you speaking at Big Sound.
Yes.
Thanks, Leanne. Okay, well, it can be often hard for young musicians to create exposure for themselves. Licensing restrictions prohibit minors from entering most venues, clubs and pubs, so booking performances can often be extremely difficult. Well, what is out there to assist youth in band management and promotion? Little Big Sound, of course. Well, Thomas Coolidge caught up with Gonzalo Rodino, director of the Little Big Sound Festival, this week to find out more.
So Gonzalo, thanks for being with us today. First up, I'm going to ask, what is Little Big Sound? When did it start, and how is it different to the original Big Sound initiative?
Well, Little Big Sound is a youth music industry conference aimed at 15 to 25-year-olds, and it was begun by myself and a few friends in an organisation called Youth Music Industries. And it was just, we discovered that there was a lot more to the music industry than we realised just through putting on our own all ages gigs. And we kind of felt that other young people needed to be educated about the different kind of roles and the different opportunities in the music industry. So Little Big Sound is just, if you know what Big Sound is it's a one-day version of Big Sound, meaning that it's a full conference type program with networking opportunities and ending with a live music showcase of local and international acts. And the program covers the different roles in the music industry: copyright, management, tour management, booking agents, just everything you need to know about the music industry, just to not so much to learn everything there is to learn, because there's a lot to learn and you can really only learn that from doing it, but more so to make you aware of all the different opportunities that are involved in the music industry.
So how long does Little Big Sound go for, and what does the conference entail?
So Little Big Sound goes from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. on the Saturday, and the program involves, there's topics covering copyright laws, management, booking, tour management, photography, and basically any other job that is available in the music industry, because it's basically just to make the young people aware of all the jobs, and it's just a brief overview of what every person does and how to get involved in the roles that you're interested in.
What does your job as Little Big Sound Director involve? Is it your first time working in this role?
Well, I've been working in an organisation called Youth Music Industries for about 3 years now, and Youth Music Industries has put on concerts and all-age festivals for about 3 years, but last year was the first time we put on a music conference. And last year, my role in Little Big Sound was much more of the project manager role and logistics role. I basically just figured out how everything ran on the day and helped out with contacting the bands and contacting some of the speakers. But this year, as the director, I'm much more involved in the program, designing the program, working with the marketing company, and just delegating roles within Youth Music Industries to make sure that everybody's doing their job effectively.
So why do you feel it's so important to incorporate a youth element into the Little Big Sound format?
Well, because Big Sound, you can't really go to Big Sound unless you're 18, because you're not able to watch the showcases or get the full Big Sound experience because you're not allowed into any of the clubs. And so Little Big Sound was basically to give a chance for the younger people to really experience Big Sound and just to learn about the music industry before being 18, so that they have the upper hand once they do turn 18. I think it's really important because, being under 18 myself, I don't really have the opportunity to go to those kind of conferences or go to the over 18 gigs.
Gonzalo, do you think there's enough being done to educate young people about the music industry?
I definitely think there's a lot more being done now than there was a few years ago, especially with JMC and Music Industry College and those kind of courses, the new courses offered in the unis. But I definitely still think that young people are restricted in what they can learn because they're not able to gain that real world experience from being allowed into bars and clubs and just working with people that are over 18.
Young people of today have grown up with technology at their fingertips and such a wider range of access to tools for listening to music, making music, and marketing music. How do you think the next generation of the music industry will differ from the last?
I definitely think it's going to be much more heavily based on technology and just networking with other people from other countries and other cities. I think it's going to become a lot easier to get your name out there and make networks and make new contacts. But I honestly don't know how it's going to turn out, but because it's changing so quickly and it's changing so much that I just think it'll be much more accessible for everybody, really.
Last year was the opening year for the Big Sound Conference. Do you think it was a success, and are you hopeful for its success into the future?
I definitely think it was successful for its first year, and the people that came definitely enjoyed it, and it showed that there was a gap in the industry, and we were filling that gap through Little Big Sound. So I think just over the years, it definitely has a lot of potential to grow once younger people will become aware of how important it is to just be educated about the different jobs in the music industry.
Well, that's all we have time for today here on Good Business. I'm your host, Nicole Murray. Thanks for watching, and don't forget you can catch these interviews again along with show information at goodbusinesstv.com.au. Bye-bye.